My name is Mark, and welcome. The reason I'm making this video is I'd like to show everybody some basics that you're going to need to know to come up to the Boundary Waters. This is designed for people who've never been here, but maybe if you've been here, you're going to pick up a few things that can help you out. We're going to talk about portages, navigation, and basic things you should know in the camp area. And so it's not a comprehensive list of everything you should bring, but it's just the things that you should make sure you have. And then you can take it from there, because everybody has their own way of enjoying the Boundary Waters. People like to fish, people like to just travel, go to camp each day. Some people base camp. So it's all on what your trip is going to be like. That's what you're going to maybe add on to what I'm showing you. So I hope you enjoy it, and see it. So you're going to come up here and you're going to have to find your way around. Fortunately, there are just excellent maps from various different companies that have every campsite and every portage, everything that you'll need to know to get around here. But how do you get around here? Because when you look out at a lake from your campsite, everything kind of looks the same. So you want to have some way of getting around. So right now I'm in Clear Lake right here. I'm at this campsite right here. Didn't get the good one I wanted, it was taken. So I want to go from here to this portage. So what I do is I take my compass with the dial on it, put it on my travel route, which is the edge of the compass. Then I have to turn my compass. I'm going to do this with one hand. So the north is pointing to the top of the map, which is north on a map. Now they can also help because there are longitude lines going north and south. You just kind of get them parallel. So once I've done that, I've set my canoe or my compass up to how I want to go. So if I want to go from my campsite to this portage spot, my compass is already set to do that. So all I do from now is pick up my compass and turn it so the red needle points north. Whoops, right there. And where that arrow is in the front of my compass, that's where I go. That's my travel. Now there's an island in the way, but that's a bird's, how the crow flies all the way to the portage spot on the other side of that island. So and just keep this in the bottom of your canoe, and sorry about that. Keep this in the bottom of your canoe, and just keep that red dial pointed north, and that will tell you your direction. Okay, when you get to a portage, obviously you're going to have to carry your canoe. So there's a certain way you want to hoist your canoe, and a lot of people struggle with this at first because it's very new to them. So this is how you want to do it. First part is very important. You want to put the canoe bottom up on your thighs, okay? And I'm gonna be going that way, so I wanna have the canoe obviously rest on my back here. So I'm gonna take my one hand, I'm bring it up on my thighs, take this hand here, put my other hand underneath the canoe, and just hold on top. Okay, I'm gonna go through that one more time. And taking it down is just the opposite. Roll it back down. Let it down gently. Okay. Use your legs actually. So bring it to your thighs. Grab here. Grab underneath. So here's an example of another example of a portage landing. And you can see it's kind of rocky and you can't just bring your boat in. Sometimes you have to get creative where you land. I landed over here. I had to be careful because the water was rushing and wanted to take my canoe towards those rapids over there. But for the most part, it wasn't too bad. Again, you're not going to be able to just pull your canoe up to a nice sandy beach. It's pretty much going to be like this the whole time. So we pulled into a campsite that's unoccupied, obviously. So we're going to take a look around. This one isn't too bad. It's not the prettiest campsite I've ever seen, but there's really no bad campsites here. There's really just some that are better than others. So what you want to look for first is any tree that might look sketchy. There's one right over here that is dead, but it's going to provide a lot of good starter for anybody who has a fire. But it doesn't look like it's going to cause any problems as far as coming down anywhere near me or anybody else who's here. If there's a high wind or if it just decides to fall down. There's tent pads or a tent pad there. If you got a lot of people, this may not be the place for you. Because the tent pad's pretty small. But for one person like me, it's not bad. Here's the path to the latrine, and we'll talk about that later. We'll go over some things about that. There's some area over here that looks like it might be interesting to explore. One thing you also find is remnants of what people left here before. Some of these things are what just people that cut down or didn't cut down, but may have cut down some wood. Hopefully not. Looks like somebody did here. And because if you cut it down, it's live. It's not going to do any good anyways. So there's some area over here which might be some more tent pads possibilities. It's not too bad. Again, you always want to look around at the trees to see what's, if there's anything that might come down. That has happened to some people, and you just got to be careful. But this is going to be okay for today. But just, like I said, keep an eye out for those trees. This campsite does have a really nice view, and the weather is getting nicer. It was pretty cloudy most of the day today. But it is getting better, and I think it's going to be a really nice night. Hopefully the clouds will clear up so we can see some stars, because the stars up here are amazing. There's no light pollution whatsoever, and it's pretty amazing. So here is the view. So one of the things that's really amazing up here are how the trees and the vegetation survive. Because the soil is very thin and there's granite underneath. This is part of the granite shield or the Canadian shield. And here's a great example right here. This pine tree is basically growing out of a rock. And it finds its way, all these trees up here find a way to survive just by expanding their roots all over the place and figuring out how to live in something like this. And it's really amazing. this is a great example of how that happens. So all these trees up here, their roots don't go down several feet. They might go down only a few inches and just spread out. And you can see over here, here's some roots that are kind of sitting on the surface. That happens a lot also. It happens quite a bit actually. So we got all these trees up here who just figured out a way to live in this kind of environment. And it's always really interesting to see. When you see a tree uprooted, it's like a big circle. I'll see if I can find one sometime while I'm doing this, but it's pretty amazing. Really good example of the trees that get just uprooted. This is probably about 9 feet high, maybe 10 feet wide, and it belongs to a very large pine. Let me get through here. You can see right here. And I mean, it just took everything with it too. There's rocks in there, and it's just because these trees and everything around here just have to spread out. They're not always attached super well. So yeah, again, this is a great example I came across today. So this is something I need to bring to your attention. This happens quite often, and it's kind of annoying. I'll be cleaning this up before I leave, but people have their own idea what burns and what doesn't burn, and they'll just bring stuff over here. Like this, for example. This is a bunch of birch, and birch, the bark is great. If you find it like a dead one lying on the ground, take their bark off, and that will start your fire up really well. But a lot of times the inside, it rots from the inside out, and you don't know it's rotten. None of this stuff will burn. None of this birch will burn. It's not good. And then over here, this is one I haven't seen. Somebody apparently thought there wasn't enough wood in the woods, so they brought their own little kindling, and that just left here. I mean, it will help start a fire, but you're really not supposed to bring in other wood that's outside of the forest. And there's just a bunch of like half burnt stuff in there. I've seen people like take a whole log and thinking that if you just put the first part in, and you can just start feeding it in the whole night, and that never works. So you find a lot of charred, like one end of a log is charred and it's just off to the side because people realize it didn't work. I'm just going to briefly talk about bears because everybody who comes up here for the first time, that's something that's a concern, which is rightfully so. I can say that the 40 years I've been coming up here, I've never had a bear come to my camp. I've seen them up here. I've seen them swim across a big lake. They're good swimmers, so island campsites aren't always 100% bear proof. So the way to minimize this, and I could, people that have bears coming to camp sometimes ask for it. So to minimize any bear contact, keep your camp clean. Don't leave food lying around. For sure, don't bring any food in your tent. That's always a good idea. And just keep everything clean and tidy, and make sure you put your food in a bear resistant container like Ursack, hanging it high enough where they can't get to it. The bear vaults, again, blue barrels are not approved, and the bear can get into some of those. So just keep your camp clean, and that'll keep other critters away too, because some campsites have a lot of mice, and there's always a chipmunk. Every campsite has their chipmunk mascot, I call them. So, you don't want to be attracting a lot of woodland creatures to your campsite. So just keep things clean, keep it tidy, and it's the odors that really attract it more than anything else. So. So we're gonna go through what's in my bag, and since this is a video on your first people who never been to the Boundary Waters and don't know what to bring, and I'm just going to show you the basics, the bare minimum what you should have up here. There might be one thing that could be considered a luxury item. Just depends, but pretty much everything are the essentials, and you can bring more depending on what type of trip you will be taking. We'll talk about that also. So right here I have a Cook Custom Sewing Pioneer bag. It's medium size. Great bag. There's other companies that make good bags too. Granite Gear, and there's a whole bunch. You can rent these at the outfitters, or you can purchase your own. Top, I keep my rain gear, so it's handy. I can get to it quickly, so it's not at the bottom of the pack. Pants and shirt. First aid kit. Okay, that's what goes on the envelope top. So what I do, because these packs are now waterproof, you want to use a plastic liner. It's a pretty thick liner. Again, you can buy these at the outfitters. My first thing is my sack, which is my food. And that's about just 3 days of food in here. It's not that much, but we'll talk about how that thing works also a little later. This is my clothes, my spare clothes. They're pretty much what I'm wearing right now, but I wear them at camp. I haven't changed into them yet, except for my shoes. This is miscellaneous, and we'll go through what those are, because there's just a whole bunch of stuff that you'll need that's in there. It's cold nights this trip, 30-degree overnight lows, so I got a 20-degree sleeping bag. Winter or summertime, you can get away with a 30 or 40, depending on how warm it is. These are actually some pants for the cold weather that are insulated. This is the jacket, puffy jacket. And again, because it's going to be cold at night, I'm preparing for that. This is an insulated a sleeping pad, X-bed. So it's insulated. This is the thing that might be considered a luxury item. It's a Heliox Zero chair, and to me it's essential, but for other people it might be considered a luxury, but they're really nice. Very small, don't take up much room. And my tent. It's a one-man tent. It's not REI, it's just a stuff sack. It's a big Agnes Fly Creek, so for one person. And that's all. That's all I need. This could be for 2 or 3 nights, or it could be for, a whole month if you want to. Just the food is going to be a much bigger amount. So again, depending on if you want to take some more luxury things with you, but you're just going to be carrying them. But I could fit all this in a medium-sized portage bag. So here's some of the miscellaneous stuff I have in the bag. And I'll provide my list of things, because not everything's in this bag either. That's miscellaneous, or some of it wouldn't be considered miscellaneous, but like things you would use. So this one might be a luxury. It's an inflatable pillow. So people just like using their stuff sack full of stuff and make that into a pillow. I use this knife sometimes for batoning wood, because I just get small pieces and get another piece of wood, hit it, and it splits small pieces of wood. This is really nice to have. It's a Garmin InReach. It's just nice to let my wife know that I'm okay, I'm still alive, that sort of thing. She really appreciates it, and she lets her know exactly where I'm at. So if something did happen, whoever is rescuing me, she could tell them exactly where the last time she heard from me. Little headlamp very valuable. This head net, a few years ago, if I hadn't had this, my trip would have been ruined. It was in May and the flies were just horrendous. So right now, there's no bugs at all, but you never know. Just always have it. Ended up having 2 of them, and I gave one to a guy coming in because he didn't have one, so I saved his trip. Toilet paper, of course. Water filter, I'll be filling this up later. Years ago I drank right out of the lake, but in the middle of the lake. Don't recommend it, but I survived, but I use a filter now. This is a little handy saw. I don't always make fires, and sometimes I just use my foot to break small sticks together, but I thought I'd make a fire just to show you how I do it. It's a pretty standard way. Most people do it pretty much the same way. Bug dope. Little towel. There's a variety of things in here. Some camp suds, some rope. Sometimes I string a clothesline, just let my travel clothes air out. Toothpaste, got a little pencil in here with some duct tape rolled onto it. Toothbrush, some floss. This is my camp cup. Just use one. I use it for everything, coffee, juice. I have a spare butane today, but just because it's almost out, I just want to use it up. And this is my cook kit. It's got the stove in here. I use like a pocket rocket type stove. I just want to caution you, if you think you're going to cook over a fire every night, that's great. A lot of people can do it. But just know that some days it's going to rain and pour and you won't be able to make that fire. So always bring a stove, a backup stove. The little pocket rocket type stoves are great. And there's some matches in there, and I hate sporks. They're the most useless thing on earth. Well, there's other more useless things, but they're one of them. So I use a bent handle, like a spoon, a long handle that's bent, so you can get all those nooks and crannies out of your freeze-dried food. So spork just leaves a bunch of stuff behind. And speaking of food, I usually just add water type food. Some people want to, eat kind of like they do at home. That's great. The only thing you want to worry about is disposing of, food items. Like if you bring eggs, what are you going to do with the shells? So I like keeping dinner and lunch and all that stuff really simple. It's usually just add hot water to it. I don't like bacon. I never cook bacon up here, but that's just a lot of work for it and not a lot of food. And it's going to attract animals if you don't take care of the grease properly. So I think, again, this is the essentials. So some people love, and it's great that they do this, just finding all sorts of ways of cooking food and real food up here and doing it correctly. So that's one thing you want to look into if that's something you're interested in. So I've always complained about the Forest Service using unrealistic trees to hang food. And normally I don't find any, but this campsite might have like 3 or 4. Here's a couple examples here. That branch there, if it's not too heavy, would work. So what do you do when you don't find a tree to hang your food the way the Forest Service wants you to? Here's one option. It's called an earth sack. It's a bear-resistant bag. They can't chew through it. They can crush things, but they can't get into it. And it also helps with mice, because mice are a problem too. There's also a certified bear canister. A lot of people use those. The blue barrels are not considered bear resistant, and they're not allowed up here as far as being a bear deterrent. You can bring them up here, but don't leave your food in it. Another way a lot of people do for hanging is simply stringing a rope between two trees and just hanging it from that rope. I find that a little cumbersome, especially when I'm by myself. But this really works well. You would use it on a tree like this one, where there's a branch, pretty thick branch, and you tie it around the trunk of the tree and above the branch so the bear can't go away with it. And you use a figure-8 knot to tie it to the branch, and two double overhand knots to tie this part together. Hi, let me talk a little bit about clothing up here, because right now I'm wearing a puffy coat and a cap, and I have long underwear top, and it's mid-May, and it's early in the morning, but today it's going to get warmer. I'm going to not be wearing my puffy coat. The whole point of me saying this is you want to bring layers up here, because from day to day or from hour to hour, things can change a lot. So have layers, like a light fleece, shirt, pants, clothing that doesn't take very long to dry. Don't wear blue jeans or anything cotton. That will never dry up here. But they get wet even just by hanging around. Also, you want to have camp clothes, and you want to have your travel clothes. Your travel clothes are going to be essentially the same thing. Your shoes, when you're traveling, they're going to get wet. Your pants are going to get wet from down here. You just can't, from your knee down, maybe even higher. You just can't avoid it. Some people like to wear high boots, and that helps, but even with that, you can step into something and your water goes in your boots, which is not pleasant. So again, you want clothing that dries quick. Socks, I would recommend like a merino wool type sock. They come in different thicknesses. Have a hat. Right now I'm wearing this because it's 35 degrees right now in May. I've been up here in other years where it's May and it's 75 degrees right now. So you never know, and it can change quickly. So just bring clothing that can dry quick and pack light, and you have layers. Layers are essential. To the place I know everybody's been waiting for, going up this hill, kind of like the stairway to heaven type thing. And we're gonna go check out the latrine. And it's usually, is actually always a fair distance away from camp for a few reasons. You need to find a place that's deep enough, with soil that's deep enough, and they don't want anywhere near water. So you don't want to contaminate the water. So middle of night, for some people, this could be a challenge. That's why your headset light was really good to have handy. And sometimes it keeps going. So I haven't actually been this way yet. There's a big clearing right here. Wonder what that's for. That could be a tent site for people who have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. That's what that is. Like I said, it's a bit of a hike, but it's well worth it. Oh, okay, where are we? There it is. Okay, in the olden days, these were made of wood, and they're called slammer or thunder boxes, because if you shut the lid, because there was a lid on those, you would hear it all across the lake. So these are fiberglass now, and I think they're going to last longer than wood. But again, I'm not going to show you the inside because you guys know the scoop. But here's some things to know about this. There's 3 P's that go into this. One of them is actually pee, poop, and paper. Nothing else goes in here. No garbage, none of those wipes that they say are flushable, but they're really not. Don't put any of that stuff in there. Feminine hygiene products should not go in there, so because they don't break down. And food products, just the 3 P's. Not price, price, and price, but pee, poop, and paper. That's the only thing that goes in here. And it'll keep it from getting full, and you have to re-dig a new one, because digging these is not easy, because they have to get them down there. And here's a semi-pro tip. Bring a stick the first time you use it, and just kind of move the stick inside around. That's for spider webs. Because like now in May, somebody may have not have used this since last year, and the spiders, they like weird places like this. So make sure you kind of get those spider webs out. Unfortunately, this situation is what keeps some people from never entering the boundary waters. Well, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and most importantly, I hope you learned something that's going to make your trip to the boundary waters very enjoyable. It's a very special place. I've been coming up here for 4 decades, and it means a lot to me. And this place is definitely worth preserving and saving and keeping it as pristine as it is. And that's up to us, and we need to keep this place going for another 100 years, just the way it is. So thanks again for joining me, and have a great trip.